Hey, sickos. I'm LJ,
And I'm Toe.
and this is
Say psycho right now.
so today we're gonna have kind of a different case. I mean, these are all different, but
I don't know a single thing about this case, so lay it on me.
Yeah, so I just want to preface this with there are no winners at the end of this case. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, more often than not, if somebody's a victim of the homicide and the end result is that somebody goes to jail for it for an appropriate sentencing, then there's at least some sense of justice there, you know?
Right.
This is not a case where at the end, I believe the majority of people will necessarily feel just like a complete sense of justice. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So just bear that in mind as we go into this. You guys already know we've said it before. I'll say it again. The whole podcast is the trigger warning. That's kind of our brand. We're just gross. But that said, I do want to give specific acknowledgement to the fact that this episode will cover topics not in great detail, but there will be mentions of sexual abuse, childhood sexual abuse in particular, and just like the power dynamic between a step parent and an abused child. So if any of those things are, personally sensitive to you, you're at a place in your healing journey for any reason where those topics might be especially disturbing to you and you just want to opt out, like totally understand, jump back on the next episode. But I do like to give those disclaimers when appropriate so that we can at least give fair heads up to folks about what exactly they're going to be getting into on a case.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so with all that said, we're just gonna get right into it. This case, so the main person that we're going to be talking about today is Jade Sasha Janks. She was born on October 10th in 1983, making her a Libra. As you guys know, I always like to do just like a little bit of background when I can on folks with what information I have available that led up to the circumstances that we're actually analyzing today. And we're going to give our usual little kind of icebreaker aside. With her being a Libras generally thrive on keeping things orderly and aesthetically pleasing. They crave balance and they can be equally as self-indulgent as they are generous. So now getting into the actual background here, Jade was 11 years old when her mother, who was 36 at the time, married a gentleman by the name of Thomas Merriman, who was 39, and this was in the year 1995. Now, just a year prior, the year before Thomas married Jenks's mother, Thomas was accused of raping a woman named Jacqueline. Now, Thomas testified at his own trial, and the jury declared him not guilty of 4 felony rape charges, but he was found guilty of 1 lesser offense of battery.
Ugh.
Thomas, yeah, no, it's like disgusting because
I fucking hate the justice system. Now, I'm sure you're gonna get into this, but did the mom know about this?
So it's unclear as to whether or not she knew it at the time when she married him.
Okay.
That wasn't really made clear, but we definitely get to a point where like everybody knows he's scummy. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Everybody knows, okay? So he was 38 at that time and went on to serve 90 days in local custody for that conviction. The woman who was battered by him, Jacqueline, she did win a $50,000 civil lawsuit against him for the same claim. So even though he wasn't necessarily given the full penalty that we all, I think, can agree now in hindsight, having the information that we have, he wasn't punished to the criminal extent that I think most of us would want us to see him be prosecuted at.
Right.
However, she did at least see a bit of civil justice in that acknowledgement when she won the suit. So, flashing forward a bit, we're in the year of 2002. And around this time, Jade would then have been 19. So, this time was very difficult for Jade, as I'm sure you can imagine. Thomas and Jade's mom, Thomas was 46, Jade's mom was 43. And at this point, they decided that they were going to go forward and get a divorce. It looks like Thomas was the one who actually filed for the divorce. And in the filing, which was on Christmas Day 2002, so just like slow clap, way to be like as much of a jackass as possible. You know what I mean? I'm like, file for divorce, that's fine. But like, really, on Christmas Day, that's what
I
we're
mean,
going
you're already a
to
big fat fucking rapist,
do?
so
Yeah, like maybe open up Prezi or something. Like, have a cup of cocoa, file for divorce tomorrow. Like,
yeah,
butthole.
I mean, like, he's already a big fat fucking rapist, so it's not like
We had low expectations. I'm just like rolling my eyes. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean it's valid. Like
whatever.
add
Probably like
add
the least of his offenses, but still, like, I see it. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's valid.
Just annoying. So, in his filing, he said that his wife threw, quote, all of my stepdaughter's belongings, clothes, toiletries, paintings, etc., off the second floor balcony into the parking lot. She's increasingly violent and verbally abusive. She has been ransacking the house and is delusional. End quote. Merriman accused his wife of abusing alcohol and possibly meth, saying she's been smashing things and slamming doors and throwing things and putting holes in the walls. She sleeps all day and stays up all night. Now, in his wife's response, in her filed declaration, she stated, quote, I suffer from depression. However, I am under the care of a therapist and psychiatrist. I caught my husband using meth in the garage and in an awkward position with Jade, my daughter from a previous relationship. She had claimed that her daughter used heroin, and I told Jade that she could live at home if she remained sober. When I found drug paraphernalia in the home, I threw her items out. So that's her mom making that statement.
Okay.
Now, Thomas accused his wife of lunging at him with a stun gun and, quote, keeping a loaded shotgun in the house, unquote, according to statements that were found in court files. Their divorce was eventually made final, and his ex-wife was able to get a 5-year restraining order against Thomas in 2017. So it's important to note here, at least just from what I'm picking up as a lay person just reading this, her mom didn't say that, oh, I saw Thomas assaulting Jade in the garage. That's not what she said. She minimizes this and said, "Oh, I saw Thomas in an awkward position with Jade." And just as a mother, if you were to find your daughter, adult or not, in a compromising position with their step parent
Mm,
from the age of 11 on,
yeah.
Alarm bells should be sounding to the heavens and back. This should be
Absolutely.
grounds for concern, obvious indication that grooming behaviors have been taking place for quite some time. Your child, now an adult child, albeit, has been the victim of a predator. And we're going to say that she's just in an awkward position. The awkward position here is that she has one parent whose head is up their ass and another who's literally assaulting her. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
just my 2 cents that nobody asked for except for the people who are tuning
No,
in.
no. I mean, you know, it's your job as a parent, like as a single parent dating, and obviously I'm not a parent, but I am the child of a single parent.
Sure.
And so, but as a single parent dating, part of your job is to always, protect your kids. And
Absolutely.
even if you're with somebody for a long time and you wholly trust them, you can never close your mind to to the possibilities that
Absolutely.
they're
You
that
just always have to remain vigilant. And I mean, guys, the thing is, too, we see this time and time again. And I'm not just talking about with sexual predators, but I mean, there are people who are serial killers who live a completely normal home life. And then they go out at night and they are the nastiest, most vile, most violent, deluded, sick individuals, just a complete 180 from the role they play during the day. You know what I mean?
right.
And while nobody wants to believe that a loved one could be capable of harming their child in such a way, at the end of the day, it is your responsibility as a parent to never reach a point where you wouldn't believe them or remain vigilant or give them some benefit of the doubt in a situation, you know?
Absolutely.
So, and this is definitely one where it's like your brain should not immediately be saying, like, oh, it's her fault. Like, she was on drugs. I was trying to get her to get sober. Like, maybe, just maybe at this point, we should be piecing together that if she's in fact on drugs, which we'll learn that she was. I mean, there's
And you need to take action immediately. Get the fucking predator out of your house, even
exactly.
if it's on, a temporary basis until, you can prove otherwise. Don't just keep going about your everyday life as if nothing just happened. It needs to be dealt with.
Absolutely. It's not, this isn't one of those things we just brush under the rug. And in Jade's situation, you know, if mom was right in the head, in my opinion, this would be a situation where you're saying, okay, like Jade is obviously having an addiction issue. And now, on top of this addiction issue, I'm finding out about this sexual relationship with her stepfather. Like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? You know what I mean? And in this
Mm,
case, I think that as a parent, you should probably start to be considering that, hey, I wonder if this drug addiction is potentially stemming from being groomed and assaulted by a parent figure. You know what I mean? Like, that could absolutely be something that would drive someone to want to use illicit substances. Like, absolutely.
yeah.
So it's just really sad to hear a parent take that stance ever, when it comes to an assault, but especially in a situation like this where mom is seeing it happening and is still siding with the abuser. That's just something
It's
that,
just awful. And it's got to be so isolating for Jade, I'm sure. It
yeah, absolutely.
just, how to be a shit fucking parent 101,
Yeah.
honestly.
So maybe just don't do what she did. But side note, you're gonna hear me call her she a lot. Literally could not find her name. She is often referred to as Jade's mom or as Thomas's wife. But in terms of like an actual
Interesting. I
name,
wonder if I mean, obviously I'm sure we don't know, but like,
right.
I curiosity is killing the cat here on what could possibly be the reason for that.
Yeah, no, big agree because I just don't really know what was happening there, but everything that I was finding was Thomas's wife, Jade's mom. I'm like, I don't know if this is just like bad reporting or if it's not available, but I mean, from what I can see, it's not available. If you guys find it, just know that I looked. Feel free to drop a comment and let us know. I mean, we're not intentionally leaving her nameless by any means. I've struggled to find that
Like,
piece of
is she in the
information.
witness protection? Like,
Right, and that's a question. I surely don't know. They won't tell me that. I can tell you that.
absolutely. We don't have that kind of power, you guys.
Yeah, absolutely not. So, but just note that there's no like I'm not giving her any special protection personally. It's just the information's just not available from what I can find.
Perfect.
So anyway, let's see. So we talked about divorce was finalized. That was in 2017, and Thomas's wife got a 5-year restraining order against him. So at this point, both Jade and Thomas have criminal records in San Diego County. Jade has been arrested multiple times for drug charges and possession of stolen goods. In 2007, she was charged with possessing stolen IDs of more than 10 different persons. Those were taken during multiple burglary instances. And a loaded silver .25 caliber Derringer was also reportedly found in her possession. Now, Thomas's charges, we've kind of already discussed those, so back I won't rehash it again, but those charges are the ones that we're referencing. They both have issues with criminal history.
Okay.
So, going into Thomas's background a bit here, Thomas Merriman was a co-founder of a company called Butterfly Farms in Encinitas. Butterfly Farms was a nonprofit organization focused on the conservation and study of native butterflies.
I hate that.
I
Something about like this sick predator being a butterfly guy just really bothers me.
well, when you put it that way, yeah. I mean, for me, what bothered me about it is like what a front. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because
Like
well, exactly, because I feel like butterflies are just so like, I don't know,
everybody
not
likes butterflies except for like
everybody likes butterflies. They give you happy thoughts. They're pure. Kids love butterflies.
They do, except for literally like my sister, my youngest sister. I'll leave her nameless because like she didn't ask to be included in this shit show, but she is like deathly afraid of butterflies, which is like so weird. But I remember like one time I was home with my kids, like going to visit, as one does, just like, hey, what do you guys want to do this weekend? I was throwing out ideas. We're all throwing out ideas, and my mom was like, oh, we could go to the butterfly conservation. And my youngest sister got legitimately mad. She was like, oh, you always do this. She's like, you know how I feel about butterflies. She was like disgusted.
She
I
was like,
was like, what is happening? And it was quickly explained to me that she does not like butterflies or pizza. I was like, what? Are you good?
wow.
Who hurt you? Respectfully and with love, though. She's a really cool kid, but I just thought that was so funny. I'm like, everybody loves butterflies. Actually, except for my sister. She hates butterflies. She's terrified of them.
Yeah, but I
But
mean, I don't know. Out of like 100 kids in your family, there had to be one butterfly hater. So
statistically. So,
statistically,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, most kids do love butterflies. They're just like such an innocent thing.
yeah,
And yeah, they're so beautiful. And you just, somebody who's like out there, like gardening and planting flowers and catching butterflies, they just seem like very gentle natured, trustable. That's kind of like the impression that I feel like I would expect to have from somebody with
yeah.
that career path.
And like, was it an intentional thing? Maybe like he was like, oh, like did the love for being a big fat rapist come before the love for butterflies, and the butterfly thing was just a cover?
Well, I mean, I think we can say that the love for being a big fat rapist came first because just based on the documents or I'm sorry, not the documents, the history we were discussing before. I mean, we have that case back in 1994 with Jacqueline,
Right.
and he's already served some time for battery related to her case. He's already been he's already lost the civil case and ordered to pay her, restitution essentially. So, I mean, at this point, like, yeah, I mean, he's already a disgusting little beast. So, I don't know that this was like like a career path explicitly chosen to create a ruse of being, more trustable, more likable, etc. But whatever the case, that certainly was the result. Whether it was by happenstance or by intent,
Sure.
it's definitely something that kind of gave him that over Jade, like something that he had as a perpetrator that Jade did not have as a victim from like a likability standpoint, if that makes sense. Do you know what I
Okay.
mean? Because
Yeah.
you have Jade, who's an addict, and Pat, who, runs a butterfly conservation nonprofit. You feel me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So Merriman Merriman is Thomas. I kind of will use those interchangeably just so we're clear, but his full name is Thomas Merriman, so I might switch it up here and there. But Merriman in 2011, he met a gentleman named Pat Flanagan. Now, Pat was leasing nursery space in or at a property in Vista as well.
Okay.
And upon meeting, they just kind of took to each other, had similar interests, similar business mindedness, and they decided that they would combine businesses. They would, form a joint situation and share knowledge and just kind of reap those benefits of running this show together. So at first, they were selling palm trees. Then one day they found themselves buying a vivarium, which is an enclosed area for raising animals or growing plants. And again, that was in Encinitas. So together, that's when they opened Butterfly Farms, which was in the spring of 2013, just 2 years after they met.
Okay.
Thomas had become known and loved in the community for his kindness and knowledge about butterflies, which
Ugh,
again, just such a, and I'm going to say it, Toe, it's a juxtaposition
what is that
between.
fucking word again? My name's LJ and I like big words.
My name's Toe, and I take a shot every time LJ says juxtaposition.
Oh my god, I don't even
Oh,
drink.
God. What's
Don't tell
that?
the people.
Don't
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 tell
tell
the.
the people I don't drink. They can't know. Oh
It's not what I
God.
was. That's not where I was going with that. But
She takes a shot of cottage cheese every time.
stop. I do
Girl
love.
loves her some cottage
I
cheese.
do love cottage cheese. Not as much as I love plains. Let's be
God.
clear. But
However, if she could choose to eat cottage cheese on a plane, whoo, buddy, get out the
oh my
way.
god, you know what? I wonder if I can take cottage cheese through TSA. I
Oh
think I'm
God.
gonna look that up because I think next time I go on a plane, I'm gonna have cottage cheese on the
I'm gonna
plane.
throw up. God love ya.
So,
Eat
like,
some
I know that you can take solid food through TSA, but I don't know if that counts as solid.
girl. That counts as chunky. She chunks.
Okay, keep going, please, for the love
All
of
right.
God.
So anyway, he became known in the community for his kindness and knowledge about butterflies, which is kind of where we left off. Meanwhile, Jade went on to become an interior designer while residing in Solana Beach, California. Now, we're kind of segueing here into the actual case events. So at this point, we have Jade, this is in early 2021. She's 37 years old at this point, and Thomas is 64. So in December of 2020, Jade was cleaning Thomas's home when she bumped into his computer. And this is where things go downhill very quickly. Jade at this point discovers sexual photos of herself in his possession, including one that he was using actively as a screensaver.
Oh God.
Yeah, the photos in question were taken more than a decade ago. Mind you, she's 37, so she would have been 27 or younger at the time. And these photos were taken consensually, but not with Thomas. They were taken consensually by Janks and her boyfriend at the time. And it's just unclear how they ended up coming into Merriman's possession. Like, we don't get any clarification or closure on that. But I will let you know that they were there. We just don't know how, and they weren't taken together. Does
Okay.
that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So when Jade discovered these photos, as you can imagine, she was deeply troubled. I can only imagine like the trauma history of being groomed and being in this position where, Thomas seemed to have had some health issues. So she was providing some caregiver type roles as a family member. You know what I mean? It didn't really seem that he had anyone else. So she's in this awful position where she's acting more or less as a caregiver for, somebody who has groomed her, assaulted her. And that's not to say that he was like not capable at all, you know what I mean? But
Mm,
we do have enough information to know that he was in and out of the hospital at least once within this next few weeks, and that she was the one who exclusively was helping him with day-to-day things that he might need,
okay.
which would just be an awful position to be in for somebody who has a trauma history, especially a sexual abuse trauma history related to this individual. But like, you can't really break that sometimes because you're the family member, and
Yeah, absolutely.
there are so many concerns about like, will I be believed, or then you leave them hanging in a situation like this, and next thing you know, just the system is so messed up. Like, she's probably got it on her radar, like, okay, well, if I don't help him, am I going to be charged with like elderly abuse or something? You know what I mean? Like, there are just
Right.
so many things that could go wrong. So even in the situation with Jacqueline that we saw earlier, he got 90 days, a slap on the wrist, and the civil penalty. But that's nothing in comparison to somebody who has the capacity to really hurt your reputation, hurt your relationships as a result of you coming forward about the abuse. It's a very difficult position to be in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so she was helping him, and when she discovered those photos, I can only imagine what she must have been feeling in that moment. But in in that moment, she pretty much decided that she needed to kill him. She just, this was the line. You know what I mean? This is the last straw. She was done. This time it had gone too far, and she was going to kill him. She was going to kill him even if she had to get assistance from other people, but she was going to kill him. She actually did ask the assistance of several other people. One of the people that she asked to strangle him, and she told another that she had actually strangled him herself. Of course, this is after he died that she had said that, but it's
Okay.
worth noting that, point being, she was openly asking people for assistance with this and was not necessarily shy with people that she trusted about being like, "Oh yeah, never mind. I like took care of it myself." You
Gotcha.
know. Okay, so that brings us to December 31st, 2020. Jade claimed as she drove Thomas from the hospital to his house that he was drinking and he had passed out in her SUV. She said that she let him sleep it off in the driveway and then found him dead the next day. But the deputy district attorney, Jorge Del Portillo, said that Jade drugged Merriman with sleeping and pain pills on the way home on New Year's Eve, then suffocated him by putting a plastic bag over his head and strangling him. They suggested that Jade planned to stage Merriman's death as an accidental overdose.
Mm,
Now, yeah, so Jade's defense argued that he overdosed on sleeping pills in her car and that Jade had hid the body under a pile of garbage next to his home because she just didn't want to be blamed for his death. That was their defense. Now, the defense attorney that we're going to be referencing right now is defense attorney Mark Carlos. He brought into evidence a bag of medication that Thomas was given leaving the hospital and said that he was left alone while Jade stopped at the store on their way home from the hospital, like left alone in the vehicle, while Jade just like popped into the store to complete some type of errand. Jade was the only person who cared for Thomas, and while the betrayal was while the betrayal was hurtful, the betrayal being referenced obviously is the illicit photos that were found on his computer.
Right.
He said, they were hurtful and obviously disturbing, but it didn't lead to her killing him. Like, hey, he was in the wrong for having the photos. I didn't like it, but I didn't kill him. You know what I mean? That's kind of the stance that they're taking here.
Okay.
Now, that said, this defense starts to crumble a bit because the prosecution pulls out text messages sent from Jade's phone. It looks like she had texted another man about giving Thomas the pills, actually. I'm going to read some direct quotes from these exchanges here. She said, quote, "I just dosed the hell out of him, stopping for whiskey, then at Dixieland to stall. LMK, like, let me know," end quote. So Del Portillo with the prosecution said that these texts were sent the same day that she picked Thomas up from the hospital. Now, yeah, so that's not looking good for Jade right now. Jade at that point on the night of New Year's Eve, she had seemed to second guess her plan in another text message when she texted, quote, "He's waking up. I really don't want to be the one to do this," end quote. And still another text read, quote, "I'm about to club him on the head as he's waking up," end quote. So prosecutors state that Jade then contacted a friend of hers. So again, not really shy about reaching out, trying to get this done and dealt with. You know what I mean?
Right.
So after this friend arrived, Jade told him that she had killed Thomas and wanted help moving the body. Prosecutors say that he left, then called the police the next day. Now, that said, I made a note here to myself because I did try to research this. If I were a listener, I would have this question because, they say he left, then called the police the next day. Like, but did he move the body then leave? Like, he came over, help move the body, and then leave? Or did he come over, be like, "I'm not doing that," and then call the police the next day? You know what I mean? I figure it's the latter, but it was not made explicitly clear, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you said he called the police the next day, though?
Yeah, he called the police the next day, so I'm thinking more likely than not he probably didn't do it. Summer is finally here, but camping? It's canceled. If you enjoy true crime podcasts, check out Camping is Canceled wherever you stream your podcasts. Jen and Kate host the show, and we love listening to their case coverages because listening to them is like sitting down by a campfire with your besties and sharing chilling stories, but without the potential hazards, collateral damage, or run-in with questionable characters. Their cases are also informative and maintain a great deal of respect for their victims that the cases cover. If you want to get your summer on, be sure to check out Camping is Canceled. Shout out Jen and Kate. But that said, I mean, I don't know.
But why the next day, though? Why the next day?
Maybe conscience, you know what I mean? Or maybe considering the ramifications of
Yeah, I guess that's
done.
true.
And you know what I mean? I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm just saying I could see scenarios going both ways, which is why I
Yeah.
tried to get clarification, but clarification wasn't readily available. If
Okay.
anybody, is maybe local or a little closer to the case, or maybe has caught a source that I missed in my research and has the answer to that question, feel free to drop it. We'll do a little quick follow-up note when we record, when we have your message or whatever, and just let the people know. But yeah, if you know, holler at us, but I couldn't find it. So at this point, as a result of that phone call from the friend, sheriff's deputies were dispatched to the home to check on Thomas's welfare. It was said that due to the circumstances, that sheriff's homicide investigators assumed responsibility of the investigation, and that statement was per Lieutenant Thomas Seaver. A search warrant was obtained, and detectives found Thomas's body inside the residence, according to that same lieutenant. The San Diego County Sheriff Office announced in a press release that deputies went to a home in the 100 block of Nardo Avenue in Solana Beach on January 1st, 2021, to conduct a welfare check, and that deputies found Thomas's body and arrested Jade, who also lived at the residence, for murder. So that said, I feel like it's important to note this because it was creating some confusion for me in my research.
Mm-hmm.
There are several sources that say that that's the way it happened,
Okay.
and there are several sources that state that the police discovered Thomas's body underneath a pile of boxes and trash in his driveway, which is to say that like a warrant wouldn't have been needed because you don't necessarily need a warrant to search like the end of somebody's driveway. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Okay.
So that was just unclear. It seems like maybe there was some misreporting going on, which can happen in cases like this. So I would just keep that in mind that it was unclear as to which of those scenarios was correct, but there were statements made that would be compelling for either. So I'm just reporting both so that you guys can,
Right.
have the information and know that we weren't able to get clear clarification. But those are the two scenarios that were presented essentially.
Okay.
Okay. So Jade was arrested soon after the discovery of Thomas's body, and she was held without bail prior to arraignment. Now, that was all between December 31st,
She
2020.
was held without bile?
Bile? Did I say held without bile?
Ah!
John always makes fun of me for like when my accent comes out, and I'm like, I'm tired, so I'm starting to say weird shit like held without bile.
Held without bile.
Just held
Okay.
without bile. So please
God.
note that she was in fact held without bail. Send help.
God.
Now, these events were from December 31st, 2020 to January 1st, 2021. So, very short window there. It's like a 24-hour period. And now we're skipping forward just a bit to the arraignment, which was not all that long after, just 11 days later on January 12th of 2021. Jade did appear via a remote court appearance to respond to the charge of one count of murder in San Diego's North County Superior Courthouse. The defense attorney was Rick Crawford, and the prosecutor was Teresa Pham. In discussing bail, the prosecution said that she believed that Jade had the financial resources and close ties to South Africa through her family.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that she frequently travels abroad, so she would be a flight risk. Now, that said, I looked and could not get clarification as to what exactly her ties were in South Africa, but it had to be something substantial enough to be considered admissible.
For sure.
So we just know that that was the case. Now, Teresa Pham said it is quite easy for her, if she was to make bail, to buy a plane ticket and just go wherever she wants to go to avoid a very serious charge that she has. So,
Hmm.
conversely, we have a statement that was made by defense attorney Rick Crawford, who said that his client is not a danger to the community or a flight risk. And in support of this, he submitted around 60 character reference letters to the court to kind of corroborate that.
Okay.
Now, he went on to state that his client actually didn't represent any threat to the community and argued that she has no prior criminal history, which I found interesting because she does have a prior history, but I'm thinking that maybe his argument was that her prior criminal history was non-violent offenses.
Yeah. No, that checks out.
Yeah, because they're usually, that's something that weighs heavily. Is like, are there violent offenses on record? Hers were more like, drug related. She had the IDs from breaking and entering, but we aren't talking rob or armed robberies. You know what I mean? Not
Okay.
like don't do any of them. Like, just don't.
Right.
But in her case, it's like, well, I mean, let's not say that she didn't have a criminal history, but I could understand if he was arguing, hey, she has a non-violent criminal history. Now, it looks like San Diego County Superior Court Judge David Berry said that he believed that Jade was entitled to some amount of bail or bile if you're from the South.
Wow.
It's entitled to some amount of bail. And as a result of that, he did order that she surrendered her passport as like a little compromise, and be subject to GPS monitoring should she be able to post the $1 million bail. Then we reached the trial, which was a fair amount of time later because remember, we're talking January 12th is the arraignment, and that's in 2021. So we're actually jumping to December of 2022 for the trial. And that trial stretched over a course of 10 days in which they brought to light that the official cause of death for Thomas Merriman was was acute intoxication by the sedative zolpidem. Now, Del Portillo with the prosecution stated their case arguing the following. He said that Jade had motive, means, opportunity, and even a confession. He identified the motive as being the photographs that Jade found, the means as being all the items found inside of Jade's car, the opportunity as being that she was the one who picked him up from the hospital and therefore the only one who really had access to both him and the medication, if that makes sense. And then finally, the confession, which they indicated as being the text message, quote, "I just dosed the hell out of him," end quote. At trial, Jade offered a statement which read, quote, "Tom came into my life when I was just a little girl and exerted influence during that early stage of development when I was still figuring things out. Unfortunately, that influence manifested itself into inappropriate touch, coercion, reckless behavior, and complete violation of what I now realize was years of psychological manipulation. All of this came crashing down on me when I found hundreds of naked photos of myself on his computer. I felt shattered. I'm sorry I didn't act the way I was supposed to that day. I think about it every day since. And to Tom's family, I understand you hate me for what you believe I did to Tom. However, there's a lot more than you'll ever understand." End quote. Now, I want to go into the victim impact statements
Okay.
here and kind of highlight that aspect of things. Although I think in a situation like this, we can argue that there are certainly victims on both sides of the case,
I mean, I have my thoughts, but I'll hold that till the end.
Yeah, we can get into that here in a bit because I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Mm.
So, when it comes to the victim impact statements, three of Merriman's brothers and three friends, including the Butterfly Farms co founder, who we talked about earlier, Pat Flanagan, if you recall, they gave victim impact statements to the judge and asked him to please, hand down the maximum sentence of 25 years to life. And I'm going to read a direct quote actually from one of those. So here we go with that. Quote, "We respectfully ask you to help us deliver justice and do good and right for Tom. There should be no leniency for the convicted selfish, planned, and brutal act. We ask for the maximum sentence that the law provides." And I hesitated there. I just need you guys to know that I hesitated because it said that Tom's brother's name is Tim. And I was like, what? That can't be right. It's right. Tom and Tim. So I was like, wow, creative.
The
But
fact that they even have no, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna hold my fucking thoughts because you know what? Okay, the thought that they even have the fucking audacity to sit there and say, "Oh, do what's good," like he's a predator. Do you
thank
not?
you.
Do you not fucking care?
That's how I see it. I'm
He's
like,
a
well,
big fat fucking rapist.
yeah. Like, why are we sitting there and advocating for somebody who was predatory and routinely preyed on a young girl to the point where she eventually snapped. Now, that said, do I necessarily like defend her actions? Yes, but no. You know what I mean? Like,
I
I
mean,
just,
yeah, of course she,
you know,
could have taken different action.
absolutely,
Absolutely.
but also I can empathize with her probably feeling trapped, worrying that she won't be believed, feeling stuck in this victim cycle. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that that makes it right, but I am saying just personally, like, fuck you to the people who know full and well that this happened and they're not denying that this happened either, but they're still sitting here like trying to advocate for him. Like, maybe just don't. Maybe
Maybe
just
just yeah.
like,
Maybe just accept the fact that your relative was a piece of shit and got killed because he was a piece of shit. And, again, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, and I get that, but like,
it's just hard when it comes to people who have been like
how
victims
fucking
of,
dare you talk about what is right and just?
yeah, especially when we're talking here about a woman now, but really what we're talking about is a child. A child was routinely like groomed, sexually preyed upon, who knows what else,
Yeah.
as if that's not enough. You know what I mean? But like, we know that this happened. He has a documented sexual abuse history. He has been caught, quote unquote, in awkward positions with Jay. You know what I mean? Like, this is not like, oh, like I'm crying wolf, like situation. Like, there's pretty sound documentation where this girl's claims are now substantiated. But to the same token, would people have cared enough to look at it if she hadn't have killed him?
Exactly.
You know, I don't know. I don't know. It's just an awful situation, and I hate, like you said, for them just to be advocating for him. It just like it's sickening. Do have to go on about it for a bit, but I'm gonna read the rest of this victim impact statement crap, and
Okay.
we'll get into it here in a minute. So, where we left off, if you don't like, if you just need a refresher, because I know my noodle works that way, they were asking for the maximum sentence that the law provides, almost like what Tom should have had for being a predator, just
Yeah.
throwing that out there. So, Flanagan said that losing his business partner and friend of over a decade was, quote, devastating, end quote. And he did say that it profoundly impacted the Butterfly Farm's operation.
Oh
Apparently,
no, not the
um,
butterfly farm.
literally, like, I can't roll my eyes hard enough. Apparently, and like, I just need to shout out, I'm probably going to say this wrong, but Leichtag Commons was the party that managed their rent, I guess, or like their leaser.
Okay.
And I guess when Thomas's wrongdoings came to light, they were like, yeah, so we're tripling your rent and non-renewing the lease.
Yes.
Technically, it's like they, quote unquote, didn't have an exact reason for this decision. Like, one wasn't given, but like it was though. You know what I mean? Like, so
Absolutely. And we love them. We love to see it.
we do. It's called justice. So Flanagan says the business at this point is closed. I've laid everyone off. Everything is in storage. I'll have to look seriously at whether I can do the business without Tom. This has been devastating not just to me, but to all the people who look to Tom for answers in the work we are doing. He says that he's hoping to move the farm's operations to Poe, and he says, I've worked vigorously behind the scenes to try to get a lease extension. We have a place to move. It's just not ready yet. So we were really hoping to get another year in Encinitas. And I'm just like, okay, we're gonna talk about how much your business has been impacted. Can we talk about how much the life of a child who was groomed and
I mean,
sexually abused
honestly,
is
it's not even appropriate
impacted?
to bring up. It's not.
No, I'm like, nobody gives a shit about your butterflies. We're talking about somebody who is routinely raped by their stepfather, and you're gonna say, "Oh, but the people don't have anyone to ask about the butterfly." There are other people. I can find you one right now on the internet. I bet. Bet.
Absolutely. Let's have, like, matter of fact, let's see how many butterfly experts that we can find.
Everybody,
Let's
what I want you
everybody in
to
the
do,
comments leave a butterfly expert.
fact. Like, not only leave a butterfly expert, drop a butterfly fact. I don't even care what it is. Tell me about a caterpillar. Tell me about a butterfly. I want to know about, oh my God, I want to say cornucopia. Is that right? Or is that what you put fruit in at Thanksgiving? Help. Cocoons.
Oh no, that's what you put fruit in at Thanksgiving for sure.
Hashtag not a butterfly expert.
Oh my god.
So not it. However, drop your butterfly facts because I'm just trying to prove a petty point. So now I am going to take you guys to the sentencing at this point. And we are in the final stretch for those of you who maybe just need assurance that we're getting somewhere here. We are in the final stretch. So, with regards to the sentencing, we're dealing with Judge Robert J. Carney. He sentenced Jade to 25 years to life in prison on Monday, March 6, 2023. As of the time that we're recording this, just for a point of reference here, this is a very new sentencing. This is March 19th, 2023. So this is just 13 days ago. It hasn't even been 2 weeks. Jade's defense attorney has already come out with a response. And I just want to back up a bit as well, just really quick. And with regards to her sentencing, she is eligible for parole after 25 years.
Okay.
So it wasn't life without the possibility of parole. It was 25 years to life with possibility of parole at the age of 20, or I'm sorry, after 25 years served.
Okay.
Okay, so now Jade's defense attorney at this time has changed. It's now Mark Carlos. He told jurors that Thomas's death stemmed from a history of substance abuse and overall poor health. He reiterated that the official cause of death was found to be an overdose of prescription pills, and he argued that there was little to no evidence to suggest that he was strangled or suffocated. He also claimed that Jade had suffered from trauma and sexual abuse at an early age, and that was not brought forward at trial. So that statement that Jade made, I know that it was a statement that was made, but I don't know that it's something that was admissible to the jurors. You know what I
Okay.
mean? I don't think that's something that they were able to reference throughout this, which is just a whole other layer of tragedy because that is context that as a juror, if I had to make a decision on this case, and I found out after the fact about the sexual abuse history, I would have felt completely robbed of being able to really give a sense of justice because I understand that there was premeditation. I understand that she did it, and I'm not justifying it or excusing it. However, I think when there's this level of childhood trauma associated with the actual act, I don't think
Absolutely.
that it's the same as treating it as oh, I'm gonna go kill that grandma up the road because I want the money she has in assets in the home that I can take. You know what I mean? It's just two different wheelhouses. And as a juror, I think I would look at the situation differently from one to another. Call it bias or don't. I don't know, but it just feels different to me.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. So Carlos was really just highlighting the trauma and the sexual abuse that she dealt with, and that, the fact that that was not brought forward at trial, he thinks really sealed her fate there. And he stated that, quote, she has maintained her innocence throughout this matter and will continue to do so. She panicked under this reaction to the drama that she had, and as a result, she did things that made her appear to be complicit in the death of Mr. Merriman. So at Jade's sentencing hearing, Carlos said that he does intend to file an appeal. So that was less than 2 weeks ago. Of course, if an appeal takes place, just know, we'll follow case updates, and if you guys happen to catch them before we do, which could happen, shoot us an email and we'll cover case updates if we don't catch it first, but we will try to stay up to date on cases like this.
Yeah,
Uh,
1000%.
yeah, but if you guys catch it first, like, don't be shy, shoot us that email. Finally, I'm going to just go into a statement that was made by Terrence Merriam, who was another brother of Tom, in response to the hearing. He said, quote, "There are no winners today. More than one family has loved ones lost to this tragedy.
Okay.
We are deeply saddened at the loss of Thomas Merriman. He was taken too soon from Earth and from us. Tom was a great father, son, brother, and friend. We want him to be remembered for his compassionate, caring, generous, kind, and selfless nature. We will do our best to remember him for his genius talent to grow and nurture living things," which I just feel like is so ironic because we're going to talk about what a good father he was for his genius talent to be able to grow and nurture living things. Like, okay, what about growing and nurturing
I
his stepchild
fucking
who,
hate it. I fucking hate it. I hate it.
I really do too. And I think that this just goes to show why a lot of the times, unfortunately, victims of sexual abuse, whether childhood sexual abuse or sexual abuse in the family or just sexual abuse in general, they don't feel safe coming forward. And I will
100%.
let you guys know, like, if you ever or find yourself in a position where you are assaulted, God forbid, and but I know that this is such a common issue for women because everybody that I talk to, like my friends, my relatives, my, you know what I mean? Like,
Everybody.
yeah, it's like I talk to people and they're like, "Oh yeah, me too," which I mean, I know like Me Too is a whole movement, but how sad? How sad is that that it's like more common than not amongst my friends or amongst, female family members to hear, "Oh yeah, that happened to me too." Like, it's just awful. If you have experienced something like that and you don't feel that you have a friend or a loved one who you can trust with the information, just without going into too much detail, I will say from personal experience that most hospitals do have a victim advocate that they
Mm,
can appoint to you in a situation like this. And they will not push you for information on who did what. They will not push you for any information that you do not want to share. But what they will do is advocate for you only as much as you want to be advocated for, and they will be a soft place to fall um if you ever need one. And like, I still remember the name of the woman who handled my case. Her name was Haley, and I can't tell you where to reach her now, but I can tell you that she was my lifeline for a few months, and I don't know where I would have been without her at that time. Like, I'm tearing up right now. But for real, if you are a victim advocate, you are seriously like doing the Lord's work. Like, that is,
yeah.
I'm sure, a very, very, very hard job to do, and more power to you if you can do it, but you're saving people's lives doing that job. So
Yeah.
thank
And
you for all
people need
you
to
do.
know that that resource is out there. That's really, you know, important information.
It is. And if you don't know where to access that information, call your local health department. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be my recommendation. Your local health department or a hospital near you should be able to
Yeah.
get you
If
patched
you
through to
don't go in
social
and get a rape kit right away for whatever reason, you can still access these
services. Yeah.
services. That being said, if you do go in and get a rape kit, that does not mean that you have to file charges.
No, I personally never did. My kit just sat there until it was destroyed because that's all I
Mm,
could handle. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But I did
So if
it.
for whatever reason you don't want law enforcement involved, and we really don't want anybody to have to use this information ever, but if you don't want law enforcement involved, you still can absolutely go in, get a rape kit, and you're going to, be provided with things like plan B, a physical examination.
They will give you a referral to an OBGYN to follow up within a few days to do STD panels as well, which is super
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
They will prescribe you antibiotic that you can start taking right away just to mitigate any potential health risks, hopefully. And aside from that, I know that a lot of people probably know this, but if you don't, like, if something, God forbid, happens to you, like, don't shower, don't whatever, if you can help it.
Yeah.
Same clothes, same everything. Go in right away if you can manage.
Yeah, and that being said, if you don't do those things, that's valid.
Yeah, I didn't. I waited like 8 hours or so because I was so shell shocked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I still
And
went
that's valid
in.
too.
You
That doesn't invalidate what happened to you. But if you can bring yourself to do it, it's always a good idea to, get yourself to a hospital as soon as you can without destroying any evidence.
Yeah.
So, hate that we have to give that talk, but
it's an important one to have, especially
yeah.
with this being the topic. So,
Yeah, because knowledge is power, and if you know knowledge is power, and maybe if we as a population of women or female presenting people or people with vaginas, you know if this knowledge is more widely distributed, then maybe some more people will face the punishment that they deserve.
yeah, and maybe some more people who are victims of these types of crimes will feel that they have adequate resources to feel supported, which is important.
Absolutely.
So yeah, solidarity to anyone who unfortunately has had to go through something of that nature. There's no good way to segue here, but we're getting a little long, so we just need to roll things out. Thank you guys so much for listening today. Cho, do you kind of want to kick us off with our socials here?
Yeah, so if you guys have a episode idea that you would like to send to us, or any feedback, good, bad, ugly, or whatever, you can email us at saypsychorightnow@gmail.com. And we are on Facebook as well at saypsycho.com. Jesus Christ. At
Say
again.
Psycho right now, a true crime and paranormal podcast.
That's the thing. That's the
That's the
one.
one.
And we are on Instagram at Say Psycho right now. We are also on TikTok. Hopefully by the time this episode airs, we will be active on TikTok. At the time of this
That's the
recording.
goal.
Yeah, at the time of this recording, we're still trying to figure that out. But
We've just got to get Toe out here in a couple of weeks to do some hot girl shit. That's kind of the
some
plan.
hot girl shit. Yeah, we do have some hot girl shit planned. But yeah, other than that, thank you for sticking with us if you made it this far. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Toodaloo.
Oh no! Did we perform a fuckaroni?